This is Oft Off Topic, a show where two men with the attention spans of a squirrel try and fail to stay on topic with today's subject. Where will their oral meanderings take us? Well, stick around and listen, because today's Oft Off Topic is... Part 2 of our episode on the Ewok Movies. Just as a quick refresher, in Part 1 we talked about children committing wisp genocide with no remorse, Alan Thicke the robotic love machine, Ewoks and their relation to the Vietnam War, and how Tarzan's nipples changed society as we know it. Now we hope you enjoy Part 2.
Do you want to talk about the movie a little bit? We talked about it a little bit, but we can go over some details.
Yeah,
such as at the beginning of the first movie, we see the Gorak. That it's sometimes stop motion, but for the most part, it's a dude in a giant suit or dude in a
dumb
suit.
name. I mean, that actually kind of bothered me in the movie because, like, the Gorak, I'm like, really, the Gorak? I mean, I don't know what I was expecting, but I was expecting something better than the Gorak because, I mean, it's big and scary. At no point does someone go, "Oh my god, I'm terrified of the Gorak." Like, the what?
Maybe that's the sound they make when they cough up a hairball. Gorak,
I guess.
Gorak.
And another thing, again, I'm kind of complaining now, just for the act of complaining. I mean, he doesn't even establish he has a pet. 1 minute, he's like, you would think they would introduce the pet in the beginning of the movie. Like, the dude rolls up, he's got a pet next to him, and he's like, oh, and he captures. But that monster that attacks him in the first whatever, was that a third of the movie?
Yeah.
Then I trap him in that tree, and it's like at the very end, it didn't really make sense. Like, oh, why is this thing attached to him? Oh wait, is this supposed to be a pet? Since when? Again, I'm just kind of complaining for the complaint's sake.
Oh, it's quite all right. This movie does have some room to complain about. But the Gorak and also the space pirates from the second movie, this is where people get all the justification that the Ewoks were more than well prepared to take on the Empire, because Goraks are big like the AT-AT walkers, and space pirates are like... Hey, I'm saying that's what they say.
Well, they're wrong.
Huh.
They're wrong because they didn't defeat the Gorak. They threw everything they could at the Gorak, and he was like batting away. The only reason why he died was because he happened to have a bottomless chasm right next to where he lived for some reason, and so he just fell. He fell twice. One time he fell, and he looked like he plummeted to the depths. And then fast forward 10 seconds later, he's at the edge again. And look, if I have plummeted off an edge, and these guys have. These little tiny creatures have been trying to hurt me, and I crawl the edge, I wouldn't hesitate. Like when he finally, I know I'm jumping to the end of the movie, but when he crawls up this chasm and goes to attack a small 5-year-old, he hesitates. He starts to reach for him, and they're like, whoa! He goes, oh, like, dude, what are you doing? You're 100 feet tall and about to die anyway. Just reach over there and smash them. They're like bugs to you. Squish them.
That would work, actually. But also, I mean, this is where they got those giant tree traps, I would think, is to smash Goraks. You know, the ones that smash the AT-ATs? Because I assume there's more than one Gorak. There's not just one, right?
Well,
it's a whole species of Gorak.
Yeah, you'd assume so. Where'd they come from? Are they asexual reproducers? I mean, they
could lay eggs.
Gorak. I mean, even if they did lay eggs, then where are the other eggs? And there has to be some kind of reproduction method. Like, he didn't come out of nowhere. Like, there was back from whatever, one species, went to another species, and slowly evolution took over. And for whatever reason, you've got a big giant Gorak. And so there has to be, even let's pretend they're territorial. So they do kind of live singular lives. And so they all kind of live like, oh, he takes over that mountain. But there's got to be others. And so, I don't know. It was only a few Ewoks that was able to take few Ewoks, a small child, and an annoying piece of shit. They all worked together to take out this giant Gorak. But again, they didn't really. They just kind of tricked him to the point where he fell down a chasm and kind of died himself. He died from clumsiness at best.
But the point remains, they are prepared for fighting giant things like the AT-ATs.
I guess. Well, not AT-ATs. They couldn't take it down AT-AT. They couldn't, in their wildest dreams, they couldn't take it down AT-AT. No, AT-ST. Again,
AT-ST, there we go.
No, I mean, and again, the AT-ST, that was honestly, that was kind of their fault because they took 2 logs and hung it up. You can't tell me that, like, they were cognizant enough to arrange 2 logs so they met exactly where an AT-ST was going to be, not where it was going to be. So, I mean,
that's one of the traps they set for the Gorak. That's one of the main paths that goes into their city, so they have traps there for Goraks.
But the Gorak never bothered them. They didn't have an issue with the Gorak.
How
The
do you know
Gorak was
that?
because he was way over there in the mountains, and like
One Gorak
they
was.
knew
There could be a
of
totally
him.
different Gorak.
Well, they knew of him, but they didn't really have any beef with him because otherwise they would have been a lot more prepared or they lived further away. They had to go to the Gorak, and it was a caravan. He was not close by. It took them a while to travel. That was the whole thing. They had to travel to the Gorak's lair.
Goraks do invade cities, and they do take Ewoks for pets. So there is that. This is via Wikipedia. No, the Wikipedia actually literally says like they invade towns, eat Ewoks, and sometimes take them home as pets.
Okay, well, far be for me to argue for Wikipedia. So I will tip my hat to Wikipedia because I'm not going to sit here and say no, Wikipedia is wrong. You know what? I'm not wearing a hat, but let's pretend I am, and I'm going to tip it.
You win this round of Wikipedia.
Yes, you know what? Fair enough. Because again, I am purely going off the information presented in the movie.
Also, you are. You're also kind of thinking this poor Gorak is just like some poor lonely hermit out there in the middle of nowhere, just being like, I sure am lonely. I wish I could have friends. Oh, there's somebody at my door. Oh God, they're attacking me.
I mean, right?
I mean that actually might be the case because
worst it was like. He put these two tiny creatures in a cage. He found some instant creatures, put in a cage, and they weren't dying, and he wasn't torturing them. You know, it was
just big of a pile of poo was underneath them. Because
I mean, imagine.
I mean, actually, his place wasn't really that dirty now that you think about it.
I mean, humans do that shit all the time. You know, we'll find animals and we'll capture them and we throw them in a zoo, or we'll find a wild animal and domesticate it
with varying results each time.
Fair enough.
Oh, yeah. One observation I did. Mace, his whole whiny attitude and everything, it almost feels like he based the entire persona off of like Luke Skywalker's whiny little, I wanted to go to Tashi Station bit.
You know, it's funny you said that because I picked that up.
Did you? Yeah, because there was his delivery sometimes just feels like really whiny Luke Skywalker delivery.
He really did smack of like whiny Luke Skywalker. I'm glad you said that. I forgot about that.
Yeah, because there's one line he said, and it almost sounded exactly like, I want to go to Tashi Station. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it really did feel like that. It felt like something was off. Like they ripped that off of the movie.
Yeah, it didn't help. He kind of looks like Luke Skywalker a little bit too.
Yeah, like a 13-year-old version of Luke Skywalker. Yeah,
13-year-old whiny Luke Skywalker. God, he's irritating in this movie.
Oh my God! I go back to I am so happy he died off screen in the next movie because I did not want him. He did not deserve an on-screen death. He deserved to die off screen slowly, painfully, as just reaching out for help that never come.
And one annoying scene where the Ewoks are like, hey, we're going to give your sister some medicine. She's like, I feel a little better. He's like, give her more. Like, we ain't got none, dude. Give her more. It's like, good Lord. It's not really hard to understand what the Ewoks... Yeah, it's not hard to understand the Ewoks are like doing hand signals and saying, hey, we ain't got no more.
Yeah. And he's like, and then of course they take the medicine and try to bounce. And without actually saying anything. And it's like, okay, we're out of here.
Oh, and there's that one giant forest critter. It looked like a giant rouse to me. Rodent of unusual size, like a rouse house.
Yeah, that was the pet.
Is that what that was? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking you were referring to the pet like the parents that are stuck in the cage of the Gorak.
No, I was talking about the pet, like the big giant. That's what I was saying, like the dog. That big, but yes, he was right of unusual size.
Yeah,
just kind of came out of nowhere and chased him to a tree. They hid in the tree, and he disappeared for 0.01 seconds. And the little girl's like, "Is he gone?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm sure he is."
Yeah,
like,
right.
No, he's not. Let's pretend he did want to leave. Even if he walked away, he's still right there. Like he's not. He did not give him enough time to realistically leave the area,
unless that thing can teleport.
Exactly.
And I would like to think that when they finally did take down the Rouse and killed it, have you ever seen how hyenas eat giant prey? They have to go in through the anus and eat it out that way because it's like the easiest way to eat through an elephant. I would like to think that's how Ewoks eat their prey. So like soon as the camera is cut, those kids had to watch the Ewoks just like crawl right into the anus of that big thing and just start imbibing. Just like,
well, I mean, because they had to do something. Well, first of all, I was watching that fight too. Why did they fight it for so long before they shot it with the poison? Because that poison sure seemed to take effect real fast. So why was that plan B? or
Maybe that
C
was the
or
only
whatever
use
it
of
was.
poison they had, and they wanted to save it just in case. Kind of like in a game when you're holding on to all those potions just in case, and you beat the game, and you're like, well, damn.
Well, those things were those things being the Ewoks. They were hitting that thing with all they had. There's no damage. Now, I also understand this was like a made-for-TV movie. They couldn't exactly dedicate a bunch of money and time to show a realistic battle between Ewoks and a big giant rat monster. But
It would have been
none.
cool if they did.
They would, yeah, it would have been cool. But nothing. Like they threw everything they had at it with their little stone weapons, and it just seemed to kind of irritate it at best. Then they finally hit it with the poison, and it falls down. And another thing that really annoyed me is there's no coup de grace. Like the big giant thing falls down, it just kind of did it die or is it still awake? And if it's still awake, well, you kill it. And if it did die, make sure.
Yeah,
So-
right. Go over there and just go poke a hole in his artery.
Something.
Because they're already really assumptive about it leaving the area, and they're wrong there, so they're probably wrong about it being dead, possibly.
And they're also super cool with those two kids running off. Like at no point they go, "What the hell, man? You know, we took you in, we gave your medicine for your little sister, we fed you, we gave you a place to sleep, and then without even a thank you, just disappear on us? Like, and isn't this why your parents got caught in the first place? Because you just took off without saying anything?
And this is why the Ewoks tried to eat Luke and Leia and all them.
That was why?
And Luke. Yes, because of this scene, they're like, well, humans are very ungrateful. Next one we come across, we're going to eat them. Oh, and another point where that kid was annoying. So that Ewok shaman has like that quartz crystal rock that he puts in Mace's hand and goes, sim sim salabim, and that thing turns into a lizard in his hand. Mace is just like, so what? It turned into a lizard. I don't think he's quite grasping the concept of the fact that Ewok just created life from a rock.
Well, I mean, and not only that, but he was kind of shitty the whole time. You're just I want the shiny rock. No, you're getting this. Oh, yeah. This is stupid. He throws it. Like, man, come on. Like, don't be a dick.
Just kind of go along with it. At least,
roll with it,
give them a reason to want to help you.
I mean, this dude just like at every turn is just trying to be just the worst.
He basically just thinks, what's the most annoying thing I could say or do in any situation? He just runs with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then he did actually, it was kind of nice watching him almost drown under that lake.
And again, he deserved it.
Yeah. Although I will say they acted kind of like, you're not supposed to go over to that lake, but I don't recall anybody ever saying like, don't go there.
Fair. I mean, okay. And, he does. Okay, I'll kind of take it back. Yeah, I still think he deserved it, but
he needed some extra stress in his life and the fear of death. Yeah, it'll knock that attitude off a little bit.
But again, it goes into like he was the cause of almost every issue they had along that journey. The cause of, and like not even like the solution to. Although he, that one it was just, and they gave him a magic stick to get him out of the water. So whoever gave that to, like at the very beginning, they kind of like knew that was going to happen, but they live in the area, right? Those Ewoks live in the area, and they were acting as if this is the first time they've ever run into the situation.
Yeah, right. Because all of a sudden they're like throwing ropes in and it's not working. They look confused, like, oh.
Yeah, let's put a branch in. Oh, it disappears too. It's like, dude.
Yeah. You'd think there'd be like a little Ewok sign next to it or something, be like, hey, man.
I mean, I don't know how far away. They don't really show you a map like how far away they walk to get there, but I mean, surely they seem to kind of know the area, and they were still running into Ewoks that like they'll run into them. Oh, hey, it's Bob. Hey, Bob. Like, let's go get this
What's
thing.
The info?
Yeah, and it's like, so somebody had to know, hey, there's some water over there. It's magic. Don't touch it.
Yeah.
Just
things happen. Bad things happen if you touch it. Just stay away.
And on top of that, how much lung capacity did this kid have?
I was just about to go into that because, I mean, this scene actually kind of stressed me out as a kid because I was like, I can't hold my breath that long. No. And what if he was like on an exhale when he got teleported under? I mean, apparently he had a full lung of air, full air in his lungs. But, if he was like on a full exhale, he would have been screwed. Last thing he would have sounded was Ewoks just staring down at him and being like, oh.
Yeah, he was just screaming and screaming and screaming. Ah! Like,
he does have some lung capacity.
Still breathing?
Yeah.
And again, like, fuck that kid.
Yeah. I don't like a thing too is if you look at the bottom of that lake, the bottom of it is just covered with dead Ewok and stormtrooper bodies and space pirates because they can't be the first people.
Yeah, I mean,
All sorts of people that just showed up by themselves, like, I'm going to drink water. Ploof. Ugh.
And then, of course, I mean, I understand they're Ewoks and they can't exactly like, oh, I'm gonna describe in detail why this is like this as it is. But no, seriously, like, why is it like it is?
Yeah.
There's not even like even that stupid stone narrator and go, oh, this was the lake from that was cursed by a witch 1,000 years ago because they had a bad day and someone tripped them and so they threw them in a lake and made it magic. And it reminded me of, and obviously this came out way before the movie, but I'm assuming it was in the books. It reminded me of the dead lake from, it was Two Towers from Lord of the Rings. So it's Lord of the Rings like in the second movie, they reached Mordor. Was it the third? I think it was the second one. And they reached. Have you seen those movies? Right?
I have.
Okay.
It's been a while, but I've seen them.
The Dead Marsh. That's what it is. They come to the Dead Marsh and they look in there and full of all those corpses. And the same thing. Now they didn't disappear magically in there, but those corpses reach out and grab Sam, I think it was, or maybe it was Frodo, and they drag him down, and Sam has to save him, or the other way around. And it reminded me of that, where it's just like he was trapped. Like there was a lake, he looked in there, and he fell in, or was teleported in.
Oh, another observation in this movie. Apparently, if you have a blaster, you can just hold down the trigger to amplify damage. I did not know that in the Star Wars world. Because there's that big boulder blocking the path, and he's just like, well, if I just shoot it and keep shooting it.
I only know that from the video games. Like in some of the video games, if you hold it down, it'll go. But then again, I didn't know that was like just a video game mechanic. I assumed it was.
Oh, okay. I never knew that was a thing. So if you had like 5 people with blasters, if you can just hold down the button and damage compounds, couldn't you just eventually blow up like a Imperial Walker eventually with one? Because I mean, that rock they blew up with just regular blasters seemed pretty substantial.
Yeah, I mean, and how much charge did it have? Because it was like 1 minute it didn't seem to have enough charge to really be useful. But next thing you know, it's blowing up rocks.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking is like if one blaster like that can blow up a rock that big and only takes like 3 seconds of constant shooting, it seems like those blasters are a lot stronger than people give them credit for.
And it would have done more damage to, I don't know, the big giant rat thing that attacked him earlier, or the big giant who's captured the parents. I mean, did they not have blasters with like the kid had the blaster, but the parents are like, oh, well, sorry, we can't do anything because we don't have our blaster because Johnny took it.
Ha! Let the kid play with the blaster. He's having fun. What would we need it for? It's not like there's giant Goraks around here.
They'll be fine.
I like the spider scene where you're climbing. I liked it more as a kid, but the spider was kind of cool. But the thing is,
spiders.
Being in high def doesn't really help the special effects in this movie because I do remember being on like a 25-inch old CRT TV. I mean, the special effects weren't good, but they looked serviceable. But now, I mean, with high def, you can see every last little string.
I've noticed that. Like the first time I really saw that, I was walking through Best Buy, looking at some of the really, the really high def TVs, like even more high def than the TV I've got. And I'm not, mine's not super fancy, but it's it's an HD TV.
Yeah, but these like 8K OLED things.
These like $10,000 TVs, and they were playing Spider-Man 2. Oh boy, Spider-Man 2 does not look good.
Really?
It loses a lot of its magic. it's a significant. I was particularly watching the scene at the very end where Spider-Man's fighting Doc Ock, and he's trying to rescue Mary Jane. And, oh boy.
Huh. Put it back to 720p. Put it back to 720p.
Yeah, and it's and when you're dealing with a movie like this, that was like, first of all, they didn't even consider anyone would have any possibility of pausing this. And if they did, it was a VHS where if you did pause it, it would be that strange little like jagged, kind of static in the middle, and the picture would be kind of shaking because you'd be between frames. And now it's like, and the CRT was just like, we'll cover everything up. Like, okay, we can gum this up because we're looking at like the high def of like, I don't know, 60 by 40. I know that's not right, but I just pulled that out of my ass. Now it's like, those spiders look super, super fake. I'm like, wow, that they didn't even try.
Yeah.
Like they went down to the fucking Halloween store and just lowered that down.
They sure did.
I mean, now to be fair, once they did the close up of the spider, they at least had an animatronic moving around. Okay, great. They at least
had some texture and detail in this and that.
Yeah, but
Did you notice when that spider gets stabbed, he literally looks down and has like a, oh shit, I got stabbed look on his face.
Right,
And he looks
like,
back and he's like, what? Oh no.
And then they took down that whole spider web by chopping one vine. They chop one piece of the spider web and the whole thing unravels.
That's like a load bearing thread.
Yeah, exactly. Like, dude, how are you still alive? Like, surely, like, not your entire web can. Every web must be in that specific place, or the whole thing crumbles.
And also, when he fell down, he had his own little spider Wilhelm scream, kind of.
Oh, exactly. And again, though, it also fed in my whole problem with it. Like, not my whole problem, but one of my problems with the movie, with particularly how they killed some of their villains. It seemed like a lot of in the end, killing the big giant monster. It depended on a lot of people falling on chasms.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, if they were on like flat ground with no chasms, it would have been a different story.
Oh, they'd be screwed. Like, their entire strategy of winning this was, okay, we need to make sure we're by a chasm.
Yep. I will say that strategy actually works in games like Elden Ring. If you can just lure somebody next to an edge and maybe they'll charge you and be like, whoop. Also worked in Tremors.
It did work in Tremors, did it?
It did. Yeah. I mean, granted, he had dynamite to kind of push it over the edge, but yeah.
Yeah, I remember that famous line, Wicket. Wicket looking over going, hey, I saw this movie, Tremors. Let's try this.
Well, I sure do like that Kevin Bacon.
Right? Of course, he said this in Wicket, or not Wicket, in Ewok speak, so they didn't really get it. But
yeah, it was just yub.
He definitely said that.
I will say, too, when the Ewoks were fighting him, that one little dude did run up an axe and smash that big guy right in like the toe knuckle. And all I could think was, that would really hurt, man. It'd be like really bad stub toe times 10. I mean, granted, that dude should have done that and then just run away, but no, he decided to stay and fight, and that didn't end well.
Yeah, it did not end well. And it's funny, too, because he gets killed, and he hands that stupid-ass human that axe. Like, here's my axe. What? Why are you've known this guy for like 10 minutes. Like, why are you feeling so...
This was my grandfather's. Please don't pawn it.
Yeah, don't take this for me. Why'd you give his life for that guy anyway? I mean, again, he was the cause of most of the issues that happened during this journey. And I mean, I would have left his ass. Like, no, I'm not killing myself with this dude. Fuck this guy.
Two options: Ewok nobility, or wait, what is the term I was looking for? Ewok honor or Ewok stupidity? Because I mean, he might just not have been smart.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, for that matter, this could be the same deal with the Gorak. This could be like a mentally ill Gorak just living out in the middle of the woods, barely able to fend for himself.
Right. All the rest of them actually speak fluent basic.
Yep. Right.
They have a whole civilization, like a high tech.
Yeah, exactly. They have like whole barter systems in place. They got little speeders for their size. Very eloquent, well spoken, and it's just this one guy that's just had to like be shunned from society for reasons.
He's living off Gorak welfare.
Yeah. Every once in a while, Gorak CPS comes out and checks up on him or whatever. Gorak welfare.
Oh, he got more little animals. I wonder how long it'll be before he shoves them in his ass.
That's good responsibility for him having pets.
Too bad he's like that abominable snowman from like Looney Tunes. He's like, I would love to
hug him, call him George.
Oh God.
The Ewoks show up to rescue the parents, and just turns out the Gorak quote unquote petted them too hard.
Oh yeah. He loved them so much. They look at that bloody mess. Oh man, he loved the crap out of them.
Oh crap, one of them's still alive. Oh shit.
Kill him.
Yeah. So this movie was the second highest rated movie for ABC that year. And it also got nominated for 2 Primetime Emmys, Outstanding Children's Programming and Outstanding Special Effects.
That makes sense. I mean, dude, I love that movie. I remember I watched it in the original airing. We recorded it, and I watched it later on the VHS. And,
I thoroughly liked that movie as a kid.
That movie
also, we were starving for Ewok Star Wars stuff, but still.
Oh, yeah.
And I see this when doing the research. It pops up on some list of being like, the worst movies ever, or movies from your childhood that were terrible. I'm like, this movie's not bad, dude.
It's not good.
It's not good at all, but
it's not good.
It's not even my top 200 worst movies. So
particularly for 80s, man. Like,
and made for TV.
Remember the 80s? Like, if you were alive in the 80s, you took what you got.
Yeah, and that's how we got the A-Team being the highest rated show ever.
Yeah, I mean, if you A-Team wasn't technically even a kids show, but I mean, it was. I watched it.
Yeah, but it was aimed at young adults, I think.
Well, yeah, but we weren't young adults. We were children.
This is true.
but still, like there wasn't much on. So I mean, you
No,
took what you got. And so when there was a kids movie that came out, oh man, like we were all over that.
sure were. And then even worse was when the 3 network days was and Sunday would roll around and every channel had church stuff on it.
Ugh, barf.
And you had to wait for the Sunday afternoon movie, which was usually something like Clash of the Titans or the Ewoks movie,
Right.
which is pretty much how I've seen all these movies. It's like, hey, it's not much, but it's better than anything else.
Absolutely.
So the success of this movie gave ABC a hankering for a sequel. So they came back to Lucas with a bowl in hand, being all, "May I have some more, sir?" And Lucas said, "More? Sure, I could use some more money." ABC said, "Thank you. Here's $7 million. A little over twice the budget now. Make something even better." So Lucas and his crew got together for a meeting to see how they could make a new movie. And the movie was hammered out over 2 meetings that lasted 4 hours each. And as they're discussing the plot of the movie and how they want to set up, everybody's like, "Hey, we should do like, a movie like Swiss Family Robinson or Treasure Island, an adventure style movie like the first one." And Lucas piped up and says, "I want this movie to be about death." Because you see, he had recently just watched Heidi with his daughter, and Heidi was an orphan who lived with a crotchety old hermit. And George Lucas thought to himself, "Hey, we could do this in the Ewok movie. Let's kill off Sindel's family and pair her with a crotchety hermit." So exit Sindal's family and enter 51-year-old Wilford Brimley, who is an established star with Cocoon and The Thing, among a bunch of other stuffs to his belt, under his belt,
And
to his name.
those parents and brother died as they should have.
Yes.
All was right with the world.
All we see is just like a little Lyco flash, flash, flash.
Off camera, because screw those people.
Although I will say, when I was originally watching that movie as a kid, I was like, well, what? They just took their bracelet off. I mean, maybe they're not dead.
Oh no, they were super dead.
Yeah.
And okay, then we're finally to like the second movie.
Yeah.
And I want to air my biggest issue with this movie. And it really does have to do with the fundamental like drive behind the main villain. Why the movie happens. And here's my issue. The MacGuffin. Yeah, here it is. So the entire movie, he's looking for this quote unquote power. He wants his power for himself. And it's like the battery. He's like, make it work. And he doesn't understand technology. And he's, basically it's like here these primitive people trying to make understand obviously the battery, you need something else with it. Us as people who are familiar with technology realize like there's nothing magical about this thing. You just need to plug it into something, then that will make that work.
Yes.
They have blasters.
They do have some semblance of technology.
They have
knowledge,
blasters.
yes.
No, like blasters take energy. They require they're not magic. They take batteries. They have to, and there's a bunch of those blasters. It's not like they found one. Every one of the soldiers are armed with them, and they have blaster cannons that took out that one thing that killed that brother off screen. They understand the power of getting energy, putting them in batteries and like things like that, and storing them into other things that make other things happen. They have that technology already. Why is he flipping out over a battery? And they don't understand what Starfighter is. They have blasters. They are already further technology weapon-wise than we are now.
As they established, there's also crashed star cruisers all over the place and crashed ships. So, I mean, obviously they walk by and were like, hey, that probably fell out of the sky.
And they completely roll over the fact that those guys attacked that village of Ewoks and kill the humans and take the battery pack. They were looking for the other guy. So it was because of Wilford Brimley. It's because of him the other family got murdered, and they never address it. They don't even mention it. Like at no point did Wilford look at the little girl like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Because of me, your family got slaughtered." They just kind of
Wilford doesn't care.
He doesn't care. And also they're like, "Oh, he's crotchety." No, he isn't. He goes from within the same scene, he goes, "What are you guys doing here? Get out." And then they're out. They're not even they're still within view. They're in this front yard. And he's just like, "Oh, don't take this food to him." And he turns his back, and the little speedster goes out there and gives it to him. And he's like, "Oh, I'm glad he gave it to him." And immediately he's like, "Come on in." And then he
Yep.
goes, "Okay, you guys are gone. You guys are gone now. You need to leave. Fuck you guys, get out of here." And he takes off, and he comes back with 2 bedrolls. Like, man, what is it? Are they cool to stay or not? You keep on saying they're not cool to stay, but meanwhile, you seem pretty eager for them to stay.
Well, when we first see his house, it's really messy and kind of looks like the house of a depressed person. So he might be bipolar and really struggling at the moment.
I guess. I mean, they were like, well, the speedster guy, how does it, how did they establish that friendship? Because, this guy understand, just like everything else, they understand English, even though, basic. And
it seems like something that he just started feeding a wild woodland critter, and eventually it just like, I don't know.
It's like, that you would think, like, let me get my thoughts. He was like basically the Flash of that. He's running around being all speedy. And at the final battle, like, he could have done more. Like, if give him a blade, and why do you run around slicing tendons? And I'm coming from maybe I might be a little more darker than we're willing to go in the Ewok movie, but go around slice tendons, and then when they fall down, cut throats. Or never mind that. There was also a scene near the end, and again I'm jumping around. There's a scene near the end where the Ewoks get blasters. They're walking down the hall trying to escape. They run into one of the bad guys, and someone drops a blaster, and it shoots the bad guy's foot. He screams and hobbles away. And what do the Ewoks do? Do they finish his ass off like they should? And then it's not like they're opposed to killing these guys. They blast them later on with this big firefight. But they allow this guy to escape, and he hobbles screaming. No one notices. No one notices the guy screaming when he gets shot. No one notices when he's screaming as you walk around. No one notices until he finally gets to an alarm and sets it off. And as anyone knows, Ubisoft 101. If you're going to go take out a village, you got to make sure you take out like the alarms first. I mean, that's just how it works.
That's just common sense, because otherwise you're just...
What do? They blast the guy in the toe, let him live. And again, it wasn't like he was some kind of strategic mastermind or he was special in any way. He hobbled away slowly. They could have just picked that blaster up like they do and shot him in the back.
Shot him right in the spine. And
I mean,
that would have been the end of that.
There's no honor happening here because they don't do honor when they're killing them later, because when they escape, those guys are coming down the rope, they cut it. And so they fall into the water, eaten by whatever's in the water.
Yeah, I kind of wonder what is in there. Although I kind of like not knowing too. I like sometimes when movies I kind of like it when movies give you mystery about it and make you filled in with your imagination instead of I like, hey, we're going to have a 5 minutes soliloquy on what's under here.
So it's just, it doesn't make sense, the choices they made.
It really doesn't. So what we now know is Ewoks are not accomplished killers like Navy SEALs or the such.
But they are.
I guess they are when they took on the Empire.
Return of the Jedi. They are very accomplished killers, apparently, because they took that in a fight, entire advanced army with sticks and stones.
Oh, yeah. Going back to the last movie, it wasn't until watching it this last time that I realized that the Caravan of Courage was a group of Ewoks and the kids walking around. Haha. Yeah, I know. They actually even say it in the movie. They're like, and now they have assembled their Caravan of Courage. And I was like, All right, well, not proud of that, but...
Is it, though? Is it a caravan? I mean, are they really that courageous?
If the narrator says it, I mean, can you argue a narrator?
Yes.
Especially a Burl Ives narrator, the most narrating of the narrators.
Of all the narrators to ever be.
Yep, he's a narratingist. This movie, the bad guy, Tarek, the main dude, main bad guy, same dude who played Lurch in the Addams Family movie.
Yep. I when I was looking, I saw his face. I'm like, oh, cool, it's that guy.
Yeah, I know. And again, kind of surprising.
And again, this guy is a fucking moron. Well, first of all, before I get there, does he speak some other language, or does he speak basic? What does he do? Because he goes from back and forth. One minute he's speaking basic, 1 minute he's speaking this other language. And particularly when he talks to that one woman who turns to that thing, she's clearly human. Maybe she's not a human. Maybe she's some other species, but the species she is looks superhuman. So not superhuman, but very much like a human. And so why is everybody like, oh, what's a human? And again, she seems so. She from there or not? Because she seems to be kind of from there.
Yeah, but
And
also she kind of seems like a fish out of water at times too.
yes,
She's
she
sort
does.
of yeah.
And the reason why this guy's an idiot, like he had no business being a leader of anything, because his go-to is the extreme. Like, make this work or I'll kill you.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Well, if they don't make it work and you kill them, you're worse off than you started. Like,
Right.
you don't start at killing. That's the last thing you do. You start with, I'll take your pinky. You know, you start slow, or hell, even like keep them in a cage for a significant amount of time.
Time will break them eventually.
Yeah, I mean, what rush are you in? He seemed like he needed to happen right now, but he was quite comfortable. He had a whole army for him. He had a castle. It looked like they were pretty well stocked. They weren't hurting for anything. I mean, yeah, I understand he wanted the power to, like, grow his power. But first of all, I didn't see any other like kingdoms around. There was no mention of any other kind of like nearby regional powers that he was struggling with. He just wanted quote unquote more power. But again, like he didn't seem to care about his soldiers at all. He had no qualms about, or I don't know, he never showed any real leadership ability, because even when they were attacking the villages, he just seemed to stand there and wave a sword around, and the soldiers did whatever the fuck they wanted to. And then finally, near the end, when he had a battle with Wilford Brimley, he was struggling to keep his own. Like he had a big giant sword and didn't really seem to know how to use it.
Right? He did not seem the most competent fighter. Kind of impressive. No. Wilford Brimley, though, that dude could swing his staff all right.
So I mean, it all comes down to like, why are people even listening to this dude? Like, what has he done to make you guys want to follow him? Because he's not smart. And he doesn't know he has no clue about how to lead anybody or get anything done. And then because he had that one chick who we would just talk to, who turned to a crow. I mean, again, make this work or I'll kill you. Dude, she's loyal to you. She's scared and loyal to you.
Yeah, so, right. She's not the one down the...
Yeah, why are you going straight to murder? And she is much more valuable than any other one of his soldiers combined.
For real.
The rest of his army combined, she can turn into a crow and fly around and find things. She's obviously magical. She has. It
seems like she could actually run that crew pretty easily with how dumb they are.
Right? I mean,
hocus pocus tricks.
If there ever was another evil Lynn, that was her. Like, Skeletor didn't exactly treat evil Lynn, like how she should have been treated, but she still was a loyal minion who he took advantage of as best he could. This guy, dude, you have a power right there. Like, she is a significant asset to your army, and you're like, he just goes, make this random ass object work or you die. And then they realize, oh, you know what? She goes, oh, don't worry. We'll get this 5-year-old. She'll figure it out.
Yeah, right.
And they get a 5-year-old. He's like, make this work or you die. Like, she's 5, man. Like, even if her, like, that was a powerful thing. Like,
and also she just got...
In what tribe would the 5-year-old know what to do? Like, again, let's pretend that thing's a magical artifact that will give you powers. Why would a 5-year-old know how to use that?
Right.
That obviously is for...
She just got thrown in prison and accosted. It's not like she's going to be thinking super clearly. Oh, yeah, I know everything.
You murdered You murdered her family off screen. As deservedly as that happened, you still murdered her family off screen. And she was lost and scared and obviously not a straight mind. And again, as I said, she's 5. So why are you threatening this 5-year-old? Make this work in 30 minutes or you're dead.
It just shows how truly evil he is.
I guess. But evilly moronic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's why they haven't really expanded much, and they just got their little moat or little.
It's like that meme that's been going around, particularly on TikTok and stuff, where it's a clip from that newest Knives Out movie where he's like, "That's just dumb," and that one woman goes, "So dumb, it's brilliant." He's like, "No, it's just dumb."
Stupid like a fox. All of Tarak's gang actually were played by people 7 foot or taller. Basketball players, a lot of them. because they wanted a good contrast between the Ewok's short height and the bad guy's super tall heights.
I mean, sure, why not? I mean, because there was no acting ability really needed. You just need to run around like an asshole and scream. You know, it kind of pretend to shoot things in the general direction of where you're being pointed. So yeah, I mean, why not?
Because this casting producer kind of had a funny story on it, where when they're doing the casting, is basically a room full of 7-foot tall people and full of dwarfs, and he had to tell one of the dwarfs straight to his face, "Sorry, we can't hire you. You're too tall for the role." And apparently, the look on the guy's face was like, "What?"
That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, and those lizard critters the bad guys have, their little pack mules.
Yes.
Little green things. Those are the blurgs. And those were the original design for the Tauntaun.
And they were the Mandalorian.
Were they?
Yes. The moment I saw them, like, holy shit, are those for the Mandalorian? And they are. They are the same creatures that the Mandalorian. In the first season, when Mando goes to the planet, like, before he got Grogu. So he's on his way to get Grogu. I think it's episode 1 or 2. And he runs into that Ugnaught who's like, I have spoken. The first thing he has to do is learn how to ride one of those.
Okay. I kind of remember that vaguely.
Like,
I was thinking, I was like, yeah, all right, I'm not going to argue it.
And of course, but you don't immediately know because on the movie it was stop motion, and in the Mandalorian they were obviously like,
oh, gotcha, yeah. So there's a little bit of a change.
Motion. Yeah, I mean, the general design is the same, but yeah, like when you see him in Mandalorian, they do look a little bit different, just purely by the fact that technology has improved.
Yeah,
they look a lot.
Yeah, aren't they a little like sleeker looking, more rideable or something like that? Kind of.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean that would make sense.
Yeah. Where was I? All right. Oh yeah, when they show up at a blah blah blah. What's his butt's house? When they show up at Noah's house, the old crotchety hermit, they immediately assume nobody's living there, even though there's obviously like food sitting around and a wood stove with wood in it. They're like, "Is anybody? Nobody lives here. Let's clean it up, fix." And then the little white meth head dude's just like, "All right."
Yeah, I mean, I know they're kind of going for a Snow White vibe there, like, oh, come in, let's fix the place up. But yeah,
or
I mean,
3 bears also.
And that guy was like, he knew, a little speedster dude was like, he knew someone lived there. He's best friend with the guy.
He was.
He's like, oh yeah,
he even knew what he did was bad, because there's that one scene where the little speedster dude's like eating, and Wilford Brimley comes and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And the little speedster dude's like, "Oh yeah, I'm supposed to be protecting this." He looks at me, he's like, "Rrr." Just lets loose a cute little growl. He's like, "See, I'm protecting."
Well, and then another issue is, so he kicks the kid out. Like, first of all, he kicks out a lost 5-year-old. And also, like, Wilford Brimley,
the courts say I can't be around kids. Get out.
Right. Well, he kicks the kid out and Wicket, and he's all like, where? They're like, I'm sure they have families somewhere. They don't address the fact that her family is dead until like probably 2/3 of the movie, and then she says it as if he already knew. She's like, "Oh yeah, my family's dead," and he's kind of like, "Well, shit happens."
He's like, "I know, I was there, little girl."
Right.
Oh, and also there's a point where she's being really, really sad, and Wilford takes her and sets her on his lap, and he was like, "Do you remember the last thing your father said to you?" And thankfully it was something like, "I'll always be with you," but that's a gamble on his part. What if the last thing he said was like, "Oh God, the pain is unbearable. I blame you and your mother." Oh God.
What? The last thing you said was, "Ah!"
Yeah. Ah! You did this to me.
I'll never forget his anguished scream as I ran from him.
Last thing he said was, "You drowned your sister when you were a baby and don't remember." I don't know what that means.
He just screamed, "I hate you," over and over again. I don't understand why.
Yeah. If I'm ever dealing with an orphan, I'm never going to be like, "What's the last thing your parents told you? You should remember that." Good riddance, you little shit.
He said I was never his to begin with.
Yeah. He's going out for a pack of smokes and never show back.
The last thing he said is, "I'm going out for some cigarettes."
Yep.
He's like, "Oh." Like, sorry, you stepped in it, Wilford. You should have asked another question.
Fast forward a little bit. There's a part where Sindel comes across the witch, the crow witch, but she's all like, in disguise, dressed in pure white and looking all, I don't know, regal next to a lake. And I don't know, I'd be immediately untrusting of somebody wearing like solid white in the middle of the woods. It's not dirty.
Yeah, well,
something about this feels weird.
And I love how like everything, like when she, did her cloak and turned black, even the horse, it's like it's all pretty and white, and all of a sudden she like,
Yeah,
ta-da!
it's
Ha! I'm wearing all black.
the obviously colors of good and evil, white and black.
And it's just, I also just cracks me up because she goes from this young, pretty blonde wearing all white to like the moment she turns into black hair and like kind of older, she's like, "Oh my God, you're ugly. Clear, you're evil."
And then also there's that one scene too where the witch is in the or in the prison, the jail, and Wicket's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go let her out," and Sindel like grabs the keys and throws them in the gutter. It's like, no, Sindel basically killed her at that moment if you think about it.
Right. I mean, once again, like thinking again, she's 5, but still, like she's obviously in the same boat you are. She's in the same boat. You're both being threatened with death, and you could have said, she could have gone, "Hey, look, if I let you out, will you help us?
Yeah,
We'll get you out of here." Yeah, because I mean,
yeah, because the
why
witch
not?
lady
Like,
didn't seem like fully all in with the bad guys. I mean, she was
no,
doing it, but she kind of seemed like she wanted to go somewhere else, possibly.
she seemed like a
Yeah,
survivor.
yeah.
Honestly,
Basically, what happened with us if
like,
we came across them on a foreign planet? Like, well, I'll play along just because I know what the alternate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying she was a good person. I'm not
Yeah,
saying it
but
at
she
all.
didn't want to die and
But
get thrown in prison.
yeah, she is an opportunistic person. She's like, okay, I'm in a really bad situation.
My option
I'm
is to
on
be
this planet with
murdered
these,
or to play along with these guys.
yeah, with these crazy assholes. I gotta do what they say, or they're gonna kill me over and over again. So, these random ass Ewoks I don't know anything about, and these random humans that crash land here, they have, yeah, sure, I'll wipe them out. Why not? Because it doesn't have anything to do with me.
And maybe somewhere along the way, something better will come along, and then you can jump ship. Like when the Empire shows up,
Yeah,
be like, "Hey, I'll
again,
team up with this guy."
it's very mercenary and very not a good guy thing to do, but it's also understandable. So,
I mean, the Mandalorians kind of do that, and people think they're good guys. Well, some people do.
some people, yeah, but they're not.
No, they're really not.
Mandalorians are actually not good guys.
Well, actually, in the newest season of the Mandalorian, they're really trying to make it hard. Like, there's no bad Mandalorians. I don't know, it kind of feels like, anyways.
Well,
they're just all misunderstood.
Yeah, well, they're not misunderstood, but like, oh, they're lost. They're all coming together. But no, like even they show in the very beginning, fortunately they weren't doing anything really mean, but Mandalorian is caught up with that ship and they're saying, hey, you've got to, we're paid to deliver you back there. So, and fortunately they're doing a mission that seemed to be maybe not nice, but also not evil. Is they go and got the was it that Mon Calamari person away from the squid face chick, and like, okay, we're taking you back home, Prince. Like, okay, let's go. Oh, this sucks. You guys are mean, and they go and they leave. But at the same vein, like, they're mercenaries and bounty hunters. Like, what if
money talks for them?
Yeah, what if they were paid like, oh yeah, we want you to deliver his head to like, we don't want him alive anymore. We want him murdered.
Murder him and blame the Hutts for it.
Yes. And you know what they would have done because they're mercenaries? Okay, here's our price.
Yeah, exactly. They'd been like, well, that's a lot of work, so it's going to cost more, but we'll fucking do it. Because that's how mercenaries work. You pay them money.
That's exactly how they work. Now, I mean, I understand there's a lot of retconning between when Disney took over. I've complained about this many times to anyone who will listen. The Mandalorians the Mandalorians as they were in the novels before the merger or before they got bought out by Disney, I very much like that version of Mandalorians so much better. Where there was like, they were an agrarian society. There was the planet Mandalore was not like technological, it was basically a tribe of Mandalorians. Mandalorians was not a blood. Mandalorians was kind of like the Foundlings do, in the Mandalorian society, with don't take the helmets off. That was how they all were.
They're kind of like Spartan warriors almost.
Yeah, exactly.
They weren't a race, but they were the Spartan warriors.
There was a religion. Mandalorians was more of a religion than a race, and so they took anybody who would say the creed and live by the creed were allowed. They were considered Mandalorians. Well, they chucked all that when Disney took over, and then they, when the Clone Wars cartoon came out, suddenly they lived in the sky and they were technological superior, just like everybody else was, and they believed in peace and harmony. And the people who were like the bounty hunters, the Death Watch, they were the outliers. And that never really rang with me. I mean, obviously I can't change it. That's how it is. That's canon now. So here we are.
If you get a job at Disney, you might be able to change it.
That's never gonna happen. But I mean, plus
Not
that
with
also
that attitude, young man.
that would also require a retcon. That's not gonna happen. So it just really irritated me. That
it is understandable. Oh, I know plenty of people that are very angry over like all the books being scrubbed and a lot of that extended lore.
No, some of the books deserve to be scrubbed. Not every book was that because at the time Lucas had to okay all the books. So all the books were considered canon in some way, even as we discussed earlier with the Hand of Thrawn series, where the Jedi powers were bonkers. That still was considered somewhat canon. And I read some of the other ones too, like the designer of the Death Star. There was actually, I read a book about that. That was actually pretty interesting too. The designer of the Death Star, Palpatine kind of did the same thing to him as he did to himself. Was he would, if he got displeased with this dude, he would murder him and then transfer his essence into a new clone. And so he got murdered so often that he stopped exercising, he stopped eating right, because he didn't care. Because whatever he would do to maintain his health would be rendered moot because he'd be murdered anyway and get put into a different body that was brand new and there was nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, I mean, back to square one. So
yeah,
who cares?
and so when he was the premise behind the book was the Hutts had captured that guy and they wanted him to make another Death Star laser on like an asteroid so they can fly this asteroid around and blow. They basically for more power because they were Hutts and they were bad guys. Well, and by that time though he was a fat, out of shape slob because he never really learned how to take care of himself because he didn't have to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so
then he sits around and be like, I now see the flaw in my plan.
Yeah. And finally the New Republic caught them and he's like, are you gonna put me to death? And they're like, yeah. He's like, oh, thank God.
Huh. And then they looked at each other and they're like, well, maybe not now.
Yeah. And that's all gone now too. And again, the book was not great. It had its massive flaws, but for what it was fine. And
and they can always kind of like redo that story if they really feel like it. I mean, nothing's stopping them. Yeah, we pretty much got to the end of the movie there on talking about, unless you want to talk more about the thing in the moat or various Ewoks rappelling up the side.
The second movie just was, it wasn't as good as the first.
Yeah, funny thing is, my memory was I remember liking the second one better as a kid, but no, there's less happening in it.
There is a lot less happening in it.
There's less. It's like dull for the first 2/3 of the movie.
I mean, you have this
more than that.
You have this army that's never mentioned before or after this, and they just come through, and they don't really seem to have a purpose.
Yeah,
there seems to be they're just there to be there, and the leader's
a
moron. He's a total moron who wants power for some reason, and they don't understand technology, even though they have technology. And then what was up with the ring? What was up with that ring? Because I mean, obviously it was a powerful.
She got it at the bottom of a box of Cracker Jacks.
Yeah, and it turned into a raven, but after that, then they hit it with a rock, and it turned that guy. It like burned him from the inside out. Dude,
yeah.
What was that ring? Like, what did it do? They never clarified. It was magic. Okay, so apparently magic it can do one of two things and only one of two things. It can turn you into a raven and back to human, or it can burn you from the inside out.
Yeah, and was that witch magical or was just the ring magical? I mean,
exactly.
Did she just come across the ring?
That's kind of like the thing about Harry Potter. Like, well, is this whole thing about the wands? Like, if you take their wand away, they seem to be kind of helpless. Not always. Sometimes they can make magic happen accidentally because of whatever. But like by and large, it seems like if you don't have a wand, you're pretty much screwed. Yeah. So are wizards kind of they have access to the magical forces they can use? Otherwise, they need a wand, or I don't know.
Need their little magical fetish to concentrate their powers.
I mean, it's not a 1-to-1 transition, but still, it's the idea behind is like, what's magical? Was it the woman or was it the ring?
Or is the magic truly inside all of us all along?
And she was a moron too, because during that one part of the movie, she like, okay, I'll get it, and she like clearly was about to use her ring to escape. He's like, no, give me that ring. Like, dude.
Yeah, right. She needs to play that ring a little closer to the chest or something.
How'd you last this long? Like, how were you not murdered earlier? You play subservience, you bow down. Don't worry, dude. I got this. Me and you, it's me and you, buddy, to the end of time. And then the moment, then like you go to your room, protect, and you walk out the door. He's looking at you like, you better get it done. She's like, 2 thumbs in the air, like, don't worry, I got it. And then she walks out the door. She leaves the castle grounds. She goes out the gate, and then you turn to a crow and fly away and never come back.
Yeah,
you don't like
right
in front of him while you're like sitting there kneeling in front of him. He hits you a threat, and you immediately grab your ring, like, I'm gonna turn to a crow right now. Like, what are you doing, man?
You know, now that I think about it, maybe she was magical, not so much the ring, because otherwise the main bad guy probably would have used that ring for himself. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, you're probably right. It probably has something to do with, or she had the knowledge to use that ring.
Yeah. It has to be matched up with the matching bracelet to make the set.
There you go.
There was a couple minor spin-offs from this movie in the form of a Battle for Indoor book and record package that filled in some of the plot gaps from the movie. And I remember these. It was like a little book you would get, and it had like a little floppy record in the back that you put on your little Fisher-Price record player that I had. Do you remember those at all?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I had several like that.
And some of them were like colored, and they came in like square shapes.
Oh, dude, I had a bunch of books like that. That's how I saw. I know this is not exactly the best reference, but that's how I saw like Song of the South. I never actually saw the movie. I had one of those records.
Gotcha. In the book.
I had Return of the Jedi one. I had Empire Strikes Back one. I had I had several. Like those were kind of like the go-to things that I used to get when I was a kid. They
were kind of cool.
Actually. Yeah, they were kind of cool. I mean, had a little record. Put the record in, and actually some had cassette tapes. You put it because not all of them had records, but some had cassette tapes. You put it in, they would read it to you, and you could read along.
Pop in your Teddy Ruxpin. Teddy Ruxpin.
I never had a Teddy Ruxpin.
Neither did I. Those were very expensive back in the day.
They were very expensive and kind of creepy, but like
I know.
The creepiness isn't the reason why I didn't have one. I didn't have one because we were poor.
Yeah, because those things they were a pretty penny back in the day.
Well, looking back now, I don't know how poor. My dad's just cheap.
That's true.
As I got older, it was like
you probably just realized it'd be something you'd break right away.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. Like, we were by no means rich, like by any means. But then again, we also weren't poor. But I do know that my dad would not buy me anything like that if he could help it.
Yeah, especially that seems like something you, particularly you and me, would like be really excited about, and then be bored of it by the end of the second day.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, a lot of stuff was
because it just kind of like read tapes to you and books that came with, or you could put like heavy metal tapes in it too, and you would kind of sing along with that.
True.
Yep. So those are pretty much the spinoffs, and also the Ewoks cartoon was a spinoff of this, which we were talking about a little bit earlier in the pre-show. Which, I mean, it's a '80s cartoon, 1985 cartoon. You get what you get with those.
That's exactly right. It's like, yep, it existed.
And a lot of the stuff George Lucas learned from making these movies pretty much went towards him and Warwick Davis making Willow. A very, very good movie.
It was a good movie. I truly enjoyed it. My biggest disappointment for that movie though was like I remember the advertisement. I remember the advertisement very much so. And actually, while they were editing it, before the movie came out, or around about the time the movie came out, we visited Hollywood. So we went to. I remember driving to Hollywood. We went to like the Chinese theater where all the handprints are out there, and there was Willow everywhere. There was a huge poster, and you saw the guy with the big skull face, and in my head, and I think it was my fault. I think like it was legitimately advertising. They were trying to demonstrate like, oh, this big guy with the skull head, he's the new Darth Vader. He's a Darth Vader for this fantasy genre.
Yeah, here's a big bad mysterious bad guy who looks really cool. Don't you want to see him, kids?
Yeah, it's from George Lucas. It's the first movie after Return of the Jedi. Or maybe not the first movie, but the first kind of fantasy movie after Return of the Jedi. I think we talked about this in the Howard the Duck. But it was one of the first big movies outside of that in the fantasy realm, and like I expected Darth Vader, not one to one,
but a badass villain for the ages. That you'd be like, this dude's amazing.
And the movie came around, the guy's barely in it. I mean, he was in it absolutely, like he was there. He was a bad guy, but he was not Darth Vader. He was, I think, he may be in the movie maybe like 5-10 minutes at most. Yeah, he was just like, I'm a bad guy. I run around, kill those people. Grr. No, I'm good.
Yep. Like, that's kind of a villain tease.
It really was. I mean, it was the Darth Maul all the time. Like, Lucas really loves bringing on some really awesome looking characters and then like doing nothing with them.
Do you like this? Do you like this? Well, too bad. I'm gonna do nothing with it. Yar har har.
Doesn't it look cool? Don't you wish a whole movie be on nothing but this guy? Oh, just imagine the movie that this guy could be about. No, we're not gonna do that.
Yeah.
In fact, even about this movie, we're not gonna do it. Just sorry, buddy.
George Lucas, the plot tease.
Oh my god. I mean, at least with like Maul, they kind of made up for it because of the Clone Wars cartoon. You know, they brought him back, and they made him even. They actually gave him a backstory, and they made him just so much more badass.
And little robot legs.
And it's funny, like the robot legs thing with him. They kind of like just kind of like, oh yeah, he has robot legs, but don't worry about it, because they mention it. They make a big deal of it when he first comes around because he has spider legs, and like, oh, you know, it's spider legs so and so, and they give him kind of real legs, and then they go, okay, we're not going to deny he has robot legs anymore, but we're not even going to discuss it now. They gave him human legs, and just the end. He's fine.
Spider legs make everything look cooler, though.
Yeah, that's true. Although I will say, like, the way they finally killed, I know this is way off topic again, but the way they finally killed Maul was actually pretty badass. I loved it. The final duel between him and Obi-Wan that actually, like, straight up officially killed Darth Maul.
Wasn't from, like, diabetes and time or something
right,
like
that. That was actually, like, a really cool duel. I mean, as short as it was, honestly, I think it was the best way they could have finished him off.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about, and I've seen that clip, but I don't remember it.
Oh, what?
Well,
I know you saw it because I sent it to you.
Yeah, I know. I watched it and I was like, well, that's cool. And then, well, my brain didn't retain it. Like many things in life.
It was just like honestly, it was very much like a Japanese duel where two people
line up.
One
of them charges the other. Shishing!
It was literally one stab. Like, it was one move. You know, they both stood and they did the thing where they charge each other and take a swipe. And that was it. Like, there was no ting, big old battle where they're fighting over lava like they did with the Darth Vader.
Dramatic music blaring.
Yeah, dramatic music. You know, a long 20-minute fight as each one's giving a little bit and each one's trying. It's like a chess game. No, it was, you know, they took positions.
We each get one shot at this.
Yep.
And
they took one strike and Maul fell. And it was actually really well done.
So both these movies were released on VHS in the late 80s, and they also had DVD releases in the early 2000s. However, Disney really had no plans to bring it to the Disney Plus service until Mr. Eric Walker started a petition to get the movies on there. The petition started, and the Ewok movies showed up on 2021 for all to see. So go out and watch it if you haven't. Eric Walker, he was the guy who played Mace.
Oh, okay.
Mr.
I knew
himself.
I forgot his name already.
Yeah,
fuck that guy. I mean, I guess. Yeah. So I guess he, you know, that was his one redeeming quality. he could whine and bitch and make something happen.
Yep. He has just enough influence to do that.
I mean, I'm glad he did. I mean, that was one. You know what? You get one. You get one. Like, of all the things you did horrible in that movie that made me root for your death, you did one thing that
death even
off-screen. Man, I am so happy it was an off-screen death because it's so disrespectful. Like, you most of the time when you think of a character that die, you know, especially for a character where an entire movie kind of hinged around him, you think that, you know, he would have got an on-screen death. No, off-screen death was what he deserved. Because fuck that guy. Everything that went wrong during that travel was his fault.
Yep. If he had just died right off the bat, things would have been better. The family would still be together and be happy.
Yeah, including his parents getting kidnapped in the first place.
Yep.
It was his fault.
Every last bit.
This is where the ending jingle goes. This is where the ending jingle goes. I don't know if we need one. I don't know if we'll get one. But if we do, then here is where it goes.